Hey friends, and welcome back to Timberborn, and welcome to our 5-day long drought, which should be fine. We've had worse. And thank you guys for the comments. I'm very excited that we finally finished the aqueduct. And I do want to test it. Some of you expressed some concerns about this river flooding. And I think we can actually see it right now because this dam was actually a little higher than it is supposed to be, or lower than it was supposed to be, I mean. So this river has always been spilling over into this river. So you guys were concerned that this river would be flooding and bad water would pollute our entire industry sector. But this river has always contained two rivers. So it's this river, the bad water river, and this river, the freshwater river, or sometimes bad water river. And they both mix over here and then become our power producing river. So I think adding the waterfall of bad water shouldn't cause any flooding over here because we just change where the water enters this river. So these water sources produce water, and at the moment it flows through the forest and then into the river. And in the future, it will flow into the aqueduct and then into the river. But the amount of water that enters this river stays the same. So I don't think this will cause any flooding. But when we get out of the drought, I'm going to test it with fresh water to see what happens. And then we can make adjustments if necessary. I think the main thing that will prevent flooding over here is that we don't actually have any dams over here. So this water can just flow out freely. So I think this will be fine. We can just let the water fall out of the aqueduct into this river. But if not, we can do some tweaking with maybe the... what were they called? The throttling valves. Maybe we add some throttling valves up here to let out the water slowly or something. We'll see. And the advantage we have here is that this is deeper than where the Badwater River is coming from. So I don't expect that the Badwater River will overflow over here anytime soon, because this would have to fill up massively before this will overflow. So I think that will actually help us a lot. But not much we can do about that now, because we are in a drought, so we don't have any flowing water at all. But this will continue growing, and as you can see, most of these, or actually all of these lumberjacks are paused at the moment because we are full on logs. We have finally filled up our log storage again. I am gonna unpause these guys again. Okay, so same setup as last time. Power wheels, lumber mills, printing press, and the paper... what are they called? Paper mill. Just to keep those resources going, our planks and our books. And then I'm actually thinking I would like to change these dams to incorporate... or this one has the throttling valve. I'm still not sure how I want to make sure we get sort of equal amounts of water going this way and this way. I think we might have to use the throttling valves. So how did we do it over here? We have throttling valves. They are automated on relay 15. And relay 15 says weather station or water depth. Yeah, okay. So I think we're gonna do the same thing on this side. And then when it's a temperate season, we can have both of these let out like half a cubic meter of water, so they get equal amounts of water. And then we do the floodgates on top for both of them, just to fill up the reservoir as much as we can, and then anything that overflows can just overflow without a problem. We can just keep the floodgates over here because we don't care about the water level on this side. We just have to make sure this doesn't flood. Then these guys are gonna be... I'm gonna be adding fill valves at the bottom, because in the regular season these can just overflow. That's fine. But then in the dry season I want to raise these to 2 meters, but then add fill valves to keep this river topped off. And then this river can just end in floodgates. That's fine. This dam can stay the way it is mostly, although I would like to add floodgates on top if we can. But that means we would have to drain this entire reservoir again. We are in a drought now, so it's not that it's impossible to drain this. Actually, let's do it. We have the materials now to build new dams. So let's just... I think this lets out more water. So let's see. If we lower our main dam to 1.8, and then we lower this dam to 1.85 for now. Maybe we do this one to 1.75. And then we wait a little bit for the water to start flowing. And then we are gonna open these guys again. Okay, so now everything should be flowing again, and we're gonna start draining this reservoir. And I might actually speed it up a little bit by doing these as well. So we'll put these at 0.85. And we're gonna lower these significantly. And we're gonna have to manually lower these slowly, so this keeps flowing. And then these floodgates can just... Can they stay? No, I want to add throttling valves to these as well, right? Is that actually necessary? We could just keep these as floodgates and only do the throttling valves over here like we have now, and then just let all the overflow enter this river like we've been doing so far. Yeah, I'm not sure. You can see the builders working very hard on all the dynamite we placed over here. We already have a depth sensor over here. So then we would just need a relay for the fill valves. Do we need a relay for the fill valves? No, we don't. They can just be automated on the depth sensor. That's fine. That does mean we need to drain this entire piece of river. So we will be here for a little while. And there's only 3 days left in the drought. I think I'm gonna have to speed this up somehow. So I think I'm gonna lower these to like 1.5-ish. Just let the water rush out. And we're gonna lower these to 1.7. I don't want to lower these too quickly because that will flood our entire farming area. It might even do so now. I think we're fine. And I did place some more dynamite over here. I want to widen this river a little bit to have a little bit more room for the water to enter this system. I think that will help prevent the mini floods as well. Because we have 3 floodgates letting water in, and the river is only 2 wide at some of these corners. So I think that is contributing to the flooding over here as well. And we are getting there. And as soon as we get this land dry, so we can change these floodgates, I am gonna stop the flow of the throttling valves, and we can drain this part of the river. And hopefully we will have time to finish all of this before the water returns. Okay, it's starting to dry up, so we can close these again. And I'm gonna raise these up again a little because I don't want the river to become too dry, because that might affect some of the crops that are a little further away from the river line. And then we are gonna try to slowly drain this part of the river. Okay, let's pause for a second because we only have 2.5 days left. So we're gonna remove these double floodgates. And we're gonna build throttling valves in their place on a very high priority. And then single floodgates on top, also on a very high priority. And that means we can control... Oh wait, do we want to do this like this? Wait, now that we are here... No, hold up. Okay, I almost made a mistake here. We're gonna remove these again. What we want to do is place dynamite here because we are making this entire reservoir deeper. So we're gonna blow this up, and that will also blow up this entire piece. And then we place throttling valves and floodgates on top. Okay, this is fine. And we need to drain this. And then we can put fill valves underneath these floodgates. So the beavers are bringing over the dynamite. That's good. 2 days left in the drought. We have partially drained this river, so that's good. And I think at some point I want to dynamite this river deeper as well, just to have a bigger storage of water over here. Oh, actually, this is not gonna lower any further because it's just level with the other part of the river, so we can remove these floodgates. We put fill valves at the bottom. And maybe 7 is a bit overkill, but oh well. We have the supplies, we have the space. It's fine. Then floodgates on top. And then these fill valves will be automated on the depth sensor. which says if you're lower than 0.5, you work. I think I wanted 0.6 actually. So these guys, when they're on, unlimited, no. When you're on, you target height 0.9. When you're, hello, 0.9. And when you're off, you are off. So when there's enough water in this river, they won't do anything and it will just enter from the floodgates. Wait, is this gonna work? No, this is not gonna work. This will create the same problem we had with this dam in the beginning, that these will always be on after a drought because this river is so low. Okay, wait, no, never mind. So we're gonna do throttling valves over here as well. Oh wait, is that... no. Wait. We could do the fill valves and then have them automated on a relay and with the weather station. So we could say only when there is a drought or a bad water season are you active. And in a drought or a bad water season, you just try to get it to 0.9 meters. Because when it's 0.9 meters, it stops flowing, right? That's the whole point of the fill valve. And then when it's not a bad water season, they just stay off. Because then we can just use the floodgates. So we can tell these fill valves automate based on the weather station. When the weather station is off, you guys are going to aim for 0.9 meters. When the weather station is on, that means we are in temperate weather. You are off, so this can fill up again. And these guys will just stay at 0.9. Actually, we can automate these on the weather station as well. So when it's off, you guys raise, and when it's on, you guys stay at 0.9. I think that works, and we shouldn't need this depth sensor at all. And then these guys are already automated on their weather station, but they are weird now because I was messing around with it. So you should be 2 meters when it's off. So we filled this reservoir to the brim when a bad season or drought begins. And goes for these guys. And then I think I want to build floodgates on top of these guys as well. So double floodgate. And you can be automated on this. And when it's off, you raise to 2 meters. When it's on, you do 1.9. And I think that should be everything automated. Oh wait, let's high prioritize all of these buildings. And then we can explode this. I'm gonna remove the stairs first. Because I don't want any beavers walking around in this explosion. So let's detonate. Ooh, explode 200 dynamite in a single day. So I guess that was more than 200 dynamite. Nice. Okay, and then we can do fill valves over here with double floodgates on top. And we high prioritize. And we automate all of it on the weather station. When it's off, you aim for 0.9. When it's on, you don't do anything at all. And floodgates. When it's off, you go to 2 meters. When it's on, you go to 1.9. And that means once the reservoir starts filling up, it can just figure out itself if it wants to flow over these dams or over these dams. And there will always be water flowing over here because of the throttling valves. Oh wait, actually, maybe we'd want that over here as well, because we always want water to enter both rivers. Okay, wait. We're gonna get there at some point, guys. I promise. Throttling valves, double floodgates on top. High priority. Floodgates go on the weather sensor. Throttling valves go on the weather sensor. Okay, and we want to say No, they don't go on the weather sensor. They go on a relay, but we need a depth sensor first on this side of the river. So let's see. Automation. Depth sensor. Oh, we have one over here. Ah, okay, nice. Then we just need a relay. Let's put the relay over here. And it's gonna be an OR. Depth sensor. Or weather station. And this depth sensor is set to turn on when it's lower than 0.8, I think. It's set to 0.85, but that's fine. It can evaporate a little bit. So when it's lower than 0.8, you turn on. And when the weather station is on, you turn on. And then we tell these guys when you're on, you let out like 15 cubic meters. And when it's all off, you don't do anything. I think we're gonna set the same for these. Wait, are they not automated? Oh, I disabled their automation for a second because they were filling up this river again, which wasn't really useful at the moment. Although I guess it doesn't really matter. It will just drain this even more. And then to finish it all off, I actually want to make this a self-contained drinking water reservoir. So we're gonna make levees, something like this. Not really a circle, but it will do. And then we're gonna put dams on top of that. Or actually, no, wait. We're gonna put even more levees on top of that. And then we're gonna put dams on top of it. And we're gonna pause some of these. Like this corner, because this is the height we want to end up with eventually, but since we haven't built this containing dam yet, we can't actually reach this height with our water. So we want to not build this middle section so water can still flow in and out freely, because otherwise we will just pump this dry and no water will be able to enter back into it. Okay, so final day of the drought. Let's see how far we can get with these dams. Well, we are making decent progress over here. Most of the fill valves are in and we're already working on the floodgates. How many builders do we actually have? This is hauling. We have 4, 8, 12. I think it's just 12. We might want more builders actually. Just to speed up these kind of projects. We have 4 vacancies at the moment. I mean, half of our industry is not working, but still. I think I'm gonna add 4 more builders on a high priority, because those 4 can help speed up all other constructions. And right now, it's not like we are in any danger if these things don't get built in time, because both of these dams are not finished, so the water will just start flowing into the rivers anyway, but we can't fill up our reservoir. So we can't store water for the next bad season. So the quicker all of these dams are finished, the quicker we can start storing water again. And I just noticed that maple is still a bit of an issue, or maple syrup I should say. This is wheat flour. Oh, we're not grinding anything at the moment. So I might plant some more maples, and since we have fixed our logs, I think we're gonna change over this section. So for one thing, I'm gonna automate this lumberjack. So we're gonna clear this planting area for oak. We're gonna put maple instead. Oh, we can't when there's still trees there. Okay, fair enough. So we're gonna wait for these to get harvested at some point, and then we'll replace them with maple. Or actually, no, we're just gonna remove them. Because the lumberjacks are paused all the time, so it will take a long while before these actually get harvested. So we'll have the builders remove these when the dams are finished, and then we'll replace them with more maples for the tapper. Can the tapper reach them? Yeah, easily. Okay, good. Okay, great. The beavers are done with the first new dam. And they've already started construction on this second dam. And that's the end of the drought. So let's switch the automation on these guys again. And these can all be paused. Okay. I really want to automate that sometime soon as well. Instead of manually changing over all these guys every time we get a drought or a bad tide. Forest is still doing great, so that's nice. Water is returning back to the river. What happens if we put both of these on 0.9? Just as an experiment. It will overtop both. Okay, I think that's just because we have two sources and this is only a one wide floodgate, so not all the water can fit through this floodgate. So part of it flows over to this one. I mean, it ends up in the same river anyway, so it doesn't really matter, but I was just curious how that would work. Oh, and they finished this dam. Nice. These are still paused. I'm gonna automate them again, because we have fresh water returning now, so that's fine. And I think I'm gonna put these at like 0.15 as well, so both rivers get 0.15. Because these were set to, yeah, 0.15. So both rivers will get 0.15 cubic meters of water. And we'll see how that works out. Because I still want to have enough cubic feet of water left that we actually fill this reservoir relatively quickly. So this should now start filling up. Because these are off. No, they're on. And then the target height is 0 meters. So they're not letting any water through. Yeah, that fits. And this is actually filling up. So that's good. And then these guys are just set to 1.85, so they will start letting out water once this fills up. Okay, so that all works, or seems to be working. And we are slowly filling this reservoir again. As I can see the yellow line of the throttling valve slowly disappearing. So that's good. And we are building the throttling valves on this side as well. And we're even starting the floodgates as well. Really multitasking over here, that's good. Okay, so these are now throttling valves as well, so they should let out a trickle of water. Then the question is this slow enough to actually fill the reservoir? And the answer is yes, we are actually very slowly filling up the reservoir. And we are now gonna flood this river. That's the only downside of not having finished this dam in time. But we are working on it. I am just realizing I've set these too high, so we are gonna set these to 0.9. And then these as well. Because again, we can't fill up the reservoir that much because this dam hasn't been built. The second floodgate is in as well, so only one more to go. Nice, all the floodgates are in. So now we should start filling up our reservoir again. The only question is, do we need to constrict the flow speed of all of these throttling valves even more? Because they're letting out 0.15 cubic meters per second per throttling valve. So that's 45 over here. And how many do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 75 more over here. So that's 1 point something in total for both of these. So 1.15, I think. So we might have to reduce the flow rate a bit more. So this reservoir fills up faster. Actually, I might do that right now. If we lower this to 0.10. And for these guys as well. Because we don't really care about the speed of these rivers. We just want them to be full. We don't want them to be fast. Okay, now we're just gonna have a little look over here. So right now we are above the first crossbeam of the floodgate at the end of day 2. So we're gonna look again at the end of day 3 and see where the water level is. And then we have an indication of how fast this fills up. And something I notice is that we are still low on maple syrup, but we're also very low on wheat flour. And I think it's because we only have one grist mill making wheat flour, but we actually have 2 bakeries using the wheat flour. So I might add a second grist mill for wheat flour, because we have plenty of wheat. So it's not like we are short on wheat. It's just not being ground to flour fast enough. The only question is, where do I add it? Because I had such a neat little configuration going over here. We could add it to the back over here. Or we change this configuration, but then we'd have to delete the grist mill for a little bit. But it might look better. Which is also important. I think I'm gonna start by building 2 more relays over here. Out of the way. And can we copy these settings? We can actually duplicate the relays, that's even easier. So duplicate this relay over here and duplicate this relay over here. A high priority. And then once they've done that, we're gonna change this around a little bit. But first, I want to see this in action. So right now, we have our standard setup. So water flows in here, flows through the forest, ends up in the river over here, and powers our industry together with the bad water. Now, as soon as a bad tide hits, what will happen is this floodgate will raise up, this one will lower down. So we're just going to do that right now. This one will raise up, this one will lower down. And that should divert the water to the side, which is what's happening over here. So that's good. So we're just going to pretend that this is bad water. So we now have a bad tide. We are storing water over here because we don't want our forest to dry up. So we can actually raise this one for a little bit, which causes a tiny flood because water was still flowing, but okay. Okay, so this water has now stopped flowing. The bad water is coming from up here. Let's see what happens. So we get a massive waterfall that enters this river. This level does raise a bit, but that's to be expected because we have more water entering, but it doesn't overtop. It tries to mix with the water behind because this level is so high, but it's not actually overflowing. And then it still powers this river. So I think everything works like intended. We could add a little levee over here just to be safe, but that would mean... Actually, there's no point in adding a levee because we have the floodgates over here. Or we would have to build higher floodgates that we raise all the way up in a bad tide just to prevent bad tide from leaking back into this river. But I think we've demonstrated that this works the way it should. So we can raise this up again, lower these. So bad tide is over, fresh water is flowing again. We still have a tiny trickle of the remaining bad water flowing into this, but that doesn't matter because this is a contained system. Now bad tide is over, fresh water is flowing again. Forest is happy, beavers are happy, we are happy. Nice. And as promised, it's the end of day 3 and we have completely filled up the reservoir. Okay, that's good. So we have reached a flow rate now where we can just fill this reservoir in 1 or 2 days. Because it is day 3, but the first day the dams weren't all built yet. So I think we can fill it up in 2 days, so that's fine. And then it just overflows both of the dams with floodgates and it can just choose where it wants to go. Which apparently is mostly over here, which is not really what we want. So we might actually raise this to 0.95 and keep this at 0.9. So more water goes into this river than into this river because this river is wider, so it can handle more water. And then maybe when we've dynamited these shores to be a little wider, this will be able to handle more water as well. I'm actually gonna add a little more dynamite. Gonna widen this strip as well. Now that we've put it at 0.95, it's not flowing at all. Everything is flowing into this. That's fine as well. Because we still have water entering through the throttling valve, so it's not like this river is going to dry up suddenly. Okay, so they've moved the relays. Okay, so we're going to delete this grist mill. And then we're going to build 2 new ones. Let's see. Put one like this. One like this. A little road in between. And then we change the power connection to be over here. And these will both be making wheat flour. Okay. So we're still working on all the dynamite. I actually think I want to start prioritizing the bridge across. So we can start working on this dam first. So we can finally fill up this reservoir all the way to the level we want to. What are the priorities like over here? These are on low. I'm gonna set them to normal. The dynamite is actually on high. I don't think I care enough about the dynamite, so let's put it on a low. And then we're gonna put this on a very high. So as soon as they reach the other side of the valley, they can start working on this. And then once they've done that one, they can start working on this on a high priority. And I'm still gonna keep these paused, even though the priority system should ensure that this happens in the right order. I don't want to risk that we pump dry our water reservoir. And I might actually high prioritize this dynamite just so we can start using this system to its full capacity. Or at least I hope we can. If I have thought of everything. We are still getting tiny floods over here. And I think that is because the river is so narrow over here. So we might narrow it artificially by just putting this one at maximum height. Or like not narrow the river, but narrow the amount of water that comes through at once. Let's see if that fixes the flooding over here. And otherwise we could try dynamiting like part of this cliff to make this corner of the river a little wider. And we can remove our levees over here, of course. Just so it flows out a little bit smoother. And has more time to distribute itself across the entire river, so we don't get the little floods over here of our farmland. This dynamite is all in, so let's explode before the beavers wake up. Just in time before the first beavers arrive. Then I actually want to dynamite a little bit more of this edge, but we can't, because then the beavers can't get over here anymore. So we're gonna have them place the dynamite over here first, and then we can explode some more. Actually, I might want dynamite over here and here, here, here. The first grist mill has been built. We're working on the power connection right now. Pretty important. Still doing fine on power. We're using barely half of what we're producing, so that's good. Okay, so wheat flour is back up and running. We have completely run out of maple syrup now. And we have started clearing out these oaks. Okay. That means we can start planting some more maples. The sooner we plant these, the sooner we get maple syrup. So, okay, and all this dynamite is in as well. Okay, so that has given this river a bit more space to fill itself. We're gonna see if that has the desired effect. And I don't really care if it floods a little bit over here. I just don't want it flooding over here all the time. And the second gristmill has been built as well, so we're gonna see if that will actually increase our wheat flour in the storage. So we can keep both of these bakeries working efficiently. Although we desperately need maple syrup for the maple pastries to be made. And I don't see any maple syrup on these trees at the moment. This is still needs 6 days. Some are nearly there. But yeah, we definitely need more maple trees because we have actually run out of maple syrup. Yeah, so we have a pretty decent expansion of our maple forest over here. Forester is hard at work. Was that Brenda the Third working hard to get our maple syrup supply back up. And I'm gonna try and keep this little oak forest over here because even though we have plenty of logs in our other forest, this makes transport times for the grills over here way shorter because we have a local log storage. So that saves our haulers a lot of long distance trips. Okay, so I've changed the priorities once more because I realized that while I had this on a high priority, this was all on a normal priority, but this dam was on our... I'm gonna have to say this is on a very high priority. This was on a normal priority, but this was on a high priority. So as you can see here, the beavers are now building this dam first, but I actually want this to be finished first. So change the priorities around again. And actually I want this relay to be finished first because that is gonna control our what are they called? Throttling valves. And despite the fact that I added 4 more builders, we quote-unquote only have 14 vacancies at the moment. So I think our sort of automation system is working, because you can see a lot of these guys are actually paused because we're just full up on those materials. And especially when we get filled up on logs, then we get like 9 more jobs because all these lumberjacks will pause. That really helps us to keep our haulers working. And I think here, now we have 1 vacancy even, so all these lumberjacks paused and suddenly 1 beaver has nothing left to do. And I think especially when we do the new automation I talked about a while ago, and I am still planning on doing that bonus episode, I just haven't gotten around to doing it yet, then these guys will be paused for even longer, because right now you saw them all on pause at once because like 2 logs were used by lumber mills or something, or by a grill. But that's a bit excessive, so we could get logs down to like 1,000 and then unpause them. Ooh, our bridge is in. Nice. I think this is a cool design with them mirrored. Looks nice. We got a cool like rope bridge going. Very sturdy as well. No sway at all. And we have a bit of an issue here. You see, we have finished our entire bridge connection, which I've got to say looks very cool. But they're not building this zipline pylon because it's too far from a district. And what I noticed is, because of these little ropes over here, the beavers can't actually get off this path. So even though we have a continuous connection, we can't actually reach this little island. So we're gonna have to either move this zipline pylon to another place, or we're gonna have to change this path. And I think moving the zipline is easier. If we place the pylon over here, for example, I think they should be able to build it just from right next to it. Oh, but that was too far away from the zipline station. Okay, wait. Before you guys build this, I'm gonna move the zipline station a little bit closer so we can reach it from this pylon. And then we're gonna high prioritize the zipline station and pylon, because I don't want these guys working on this dam when they have to walk all this way. I'd rather have them build this zipline station so they can zip over here. And because they can't reach everything, they've continued working on this dam as well, so we might be able to get this reservoir operating pretty quickly, actually. And we have a bad tide approaching, so we can test our new aqueduct. So a couple of more days have passed, and you can see we've been working on this dam pretty diligently. We're about halfway done with this dam, I think, so that would enclose our drinking water reservoir, which also doubles as keeping our trees happy reservoir. And we've put in the zipline station, and we're working hard on this dam as well. So we're more than halfway done with this dam. But with this dam, we have the same problem as we had with the aqueduct, that they can only work on 1 section at a time. So even though we have 16 builders, there's only like 4 or 5 of them working on this dam at the same time, because they can't put materials in these sections until they have built the previous section, so this is kind of slow going. But that does mean that every time they can't reach a new piece, they work on this, so they will actually be finished more or less at the same time, which is convenient, because we need both of them for the entire system to work. And the bad tide is gonna be here pretty soon. But looking at my recording time, that's gonna have to wait till next episode. So thank you very much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you have a good rest of your day. And join me next time to see our glorious aqueduct in action for the bad tide. At which point we can start calling it a badqueduct, I guess. Yeah, anyway, enjoy the rest of your day. And I will see you all next time. Bye bye.